are keeping things. Well, one of the reason why they keep certain details and or all the details of of an active case private, um, and they withhold evidence and case details is literally to protect the investigation, and that's also to verify like any future tips and or information, and most importantly, which happens a lot with this case specifically, is false confessions and or misinformation. Now, confessions, not so much. Nobody's confessed to anything. But when you get on the internet, there is Danielle, back me up on this.
I got you. Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean, you was on the Ready to Date for how long?
I mean, at least 2 whole hours right before we went on here because I was stuck reading what all people were having their theories and everything. And, the more like facts that you told me about the case that you were researching, and then all the threads I'm reading on Reddit, and I'm like, oh, it all kindly intertwines, and then like
Oh
their
yeah.
theories match the facts of the case, and I'm like, what is going on?
Yep.
What actually
Same.
happened to her?
Thank you. Same.
I mean, it's
So
scary the thought.
yeah, but so what we're gonna do, okay, and this is what me and Danny, and anybody that is truly interested in something, that you always look at again who is closest to the subject.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that is always the prime suspect, and I hate that it's that way, but anybody that has watched at least 2 hours of a true crime anything, it's more than likely somebody you live with, someone you know, a family member, a strange family member, an ex, uh, uh, neighbors, somebody that worked with the family. It's somebody that knows, right? So, what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to then start presenting people that were the closest to her and providing facts. Now, I will say this as a disclaimer. If somebody listening does not agree with these as facts, don't take it up with me. Okay, take it up to the interwebs and local news and or authorities. So that is my disclaimer for this. Let's begin. So the first suspect is obviously, or and or person around her, however you want to word it. I don't like the word suspect, but every time where you turn, you're going to see that. So here we are. We're going to start going and digging into the family and kind of getting some more information about them. Now, some of the family members, there's not going to be a lot of information, but I'm going to present things as facts. And again, people are more than welcome to draw their own conclusions. But at the end of the day, any of these people that are mentioned have never in any way, shape, or form, been accused, charged, or pinpointed as a suspect. So the first person that we're going to look at is her father, Don Wells. So we're going to start with the parents. So Don Wells is again her father. He is originally from Utah. There's not really much I can find out about his Utah life, but there are news reports that have noted that he lived and faced multiple legal charges in Utah between 1990 and 2001 before then eventually moving to East Tennessee. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. Let's check that out. So, between 1990 and 2001, while living in Utah, Donald Wells was charged with and pleaded guilty to attempted aggravated assault, burglary, forgery, theft, and interfering with a public servant. Okay.
Okay.
He sounds like a great person.
Yep.
He sounds like I mean, people change, it could have been a rough time, but still, aggravated assault, hello, burglary. I mean, you know, anyway, let's not, we listen and we don't judge. Um, then in Arkansas, between 2006 and 2007, he faced charges that included, once again, burglary and possession of controlled counterfeit substances without a prescription. Okay. So that was out of state. Now, in Tennessee, there were some arrests and there were some convictions. So, October of 2020, Wells, Donald Wells, was charged with domestic assault and possession and unlawful use of a weapon after an altercation with Summers' mother. Summers' mother initially filed an order of protection detailing allegations of physical and mental abuse. However, she later stated to the judge that the situation was a misunderstanding and apologized. So she dropped it. And then so Don later pled guilty to possession of a handgun while intoxicated, and then the other charges were dropped. Which, I mean, possession of a handgun while intoxicated, I mean, that could honestly mean that it was sitting by a table and you were drunk at your home, you know?
Right.
I mean, when it really comes down to it, like it's in and around on your person, So I don't know. That's all we could find out about that one. Then a year later, in October of 2021, he was arrested for driving under the influence and he was charged with a DUI, driving with an open container, improper lane usage, and violating financial responsibility. We got to get that improper lane usage in there. Gosh,
Don't
oh my
forget,
gosh.
don't forget that improper lane usage for that Dewey now. You gotta have that
I
probable cause.
I know, I know. I'm just like, really, we gotta tack all that on. Can't we just put DUI and move on with our lives? But anyway, so then in February of 2022, he then pled guilty to the DUI. And because the incident violated his probation, he was sentenced to 11 months and 29 days in jail with a requirement to serve 180 days before being eligible for an alcohol rehab program. So there's a little bit of backstory on old buddy, old pal, Don. And of course, he has publicly maintained that he believes Summer was abducted. Like that has always been the thing. He's like, look, but here's kind of from what I could find is that has been his only theory.
And why is he so confident in that theory? Is he confident in that theory? Like why is that his only theory?
I'm just going to put out my personal opinion here. If I lived in a relatively very tight knit community and my child goes missing, and the first thing I think is that they're abducted, then in the back of my mind, I think and or feel and or know that there is somebody within that community that would 100% take my child. But then my ass would be 100% over there knocking on their door. But
Right.
that's, I'd be doing more than knocking, but that's just, I'd
Well,
be
I mean,
knocking
it's like,
rather loud with my foot
well, I
through the
mean,
door. So that's just me.
we coming in with a full, what is it, artillery.
Oh, I'm coming in hot. I'm talking about we're landing this plane right now, and you better have some damn answers. But that's kind of like where my brain goes as like a parent. Like if I immediately was like somebody took my baby,
Yeah.
there would have to be something to me, like, and this is just my opinion, that would spur my brain that there's somebody that has said either something weird, has been around that I didn't know, or something strange to automatically be like, no, she didn't wander away. Somebody took her.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So
And yeah, he had to. If you
it
thought
gets
someone
weird.
took her, oh God. Okay, here we go.
I'm scared. So a year after she disappeared, he released a letter addressed to who he described as his daughter's kidnappers.
Okay.
But the TBI said there's no evidence indicating anything that she was abducted from the home. Again, I we'll have to cover that on a different episode when it comes down to like the theories and the such,
Yes.
but odd is what all I have to say about it is odd.
Yeah.
But then, of course, as we know, Don has faced public scrutiny because of his criminal history and legal issues. Okay.
I can see that.
Yes. So back to like the whole domestic assault thing, because like anytime somebody hears that, especially pertaining to anything kind of similar to this, my that's like my ears prick up and I'm like, hello, what, tell me more about that. Please explain.
Right.
What occurred? What
Mm.
occurred?
Give me the deets.
Yes. And so and Hawkins County did confirm that he had been arrested for a domestic assault before Summer disappeared, but they were dismissed, and that Candace had filed for an order of protection, which later was dismissed. But she said the reason that she was applying for that was because she feared for herself and her children. Now, you all do with that information what you wish.
I can't wait for our theories.
I, yeah, because
Stay tuned.
yes, please stay tuned. Don Wells, of course, has not been charged in connection with Summer's disappearance, and his unrelated legal history does explain the public scrutiny, but it does not prove any type of involvement. Um, and no, which this is another thing, he has never been formally charged with child abuse, even though he and the family have been subject to investigations. Now, that leads us into CPS. So, Tennessee authorities investigated allegations of abuse or neglect regarding the couple's three sons, which they were between 7 and 13. Now, there's very little information. Obviously, they're minors; they're not going to have that out on the internet. But it did, okay, result in them being placed into state custody. However, Summers and their parents also later shared court documents that stated all opinions of abuse or neglect were dropped and unsubstantiated by a judge. So basically meaning there is nothing to prove anything, there's no evidence to back anything up. So Dawn had shared the two documents online showing the order of dismissal with the caption stating in part, and I quote, all opinions of abuse or neglect are dropped and unsubstantiated by judge's order. And I end quote. So he did post that, should post it on that. And then also he put our DCS case has been dismissed. All opinions of abuse or neglect are dropped. And basically went back and repeated that. And then he says, we have not abused or neglected our three sons. If Summer is found today, she can come home. And then signed it, Don Candace Wells, parents of Summer Wells. So that is some background on Dawn. Now, of course, prior history, normally should not be used against people in any way, shape, or form, but it is out there. And again, people can draw and do with that as they wish. I just want to give, that's basically what I could find. So we're just trying to be transparent here and do everybody's searching for them. Now, Candace Wells, which was her maiden name was Candace Bly. That is Summer's mother, and also one of the last known people to report seeing Summer. And for her, I didn't really find much of anything. She did have a past history back in 2003, which was a guilty plea for a misdemeanor domestic abuse. And then, of course, in 2020, October, the altercation that apparently happened within their home, where she had filed that emergency protective order against Dawn, which was then she dismissed the petition 4 days later. But one of the things that draws the most scrutiny around Candace specifically is her public timeline. And it is obviously very heavily scrutinized, as one can expect, but unfortunately endure. As parents, you're going to be put underneath a magnifying glass. And if you blinked wrong or too many times, people are like, oh, did you see that? And I'm just like, my God, so of course they're going to be underneath heavy scrutiny. But Candace also stated that Summer would not have left the property willingly. Okay. And has
What's that supposed to
leaned,
mean?
girl, I'm just saying, I mean, I guess, and I try to put myself in these people's shoes. Like if somebody was like, would either one of your children leave? I'd be like, no, like you would have to like physically, like you would have to scoop them up and run and throw them like in a vehicle. They would not just wander down the driveway. So
Right.
I could kind of see that. So I'm assuming that and of course, you never assume because that makes an ass out of you and me. But that's kind of really,
I
you know,
just put all of that together. That's how you spell assume.
yes, girl, yes, write that down, write that down. Use that in your next meeting. I have done that before.
I've
Yes.
always heard that saying, but I just now spelled it. Okay, I'm done.
Yes. No, you are perfectly fine.
I feel like this whole case has just got my brain fried.
Girl, same, same. When I was going through and reading this, I was like, "Holy Mother Mary, help us!" I was like, "We're in the weeds." So yeah, so she's 100% on the same train as Dawn. She's like, somebody took her, but the public criticism that often centers on Candace is her timeline, interviews that she's completed, her emotional presentation, her explanation and or lack thereof, depending on how you want to look at it, of Summer's haircut, um, and the fact that she just disappeared while clearly, under family supervision. Now, how well supervised, I don't know, but there was adults there, is the point. So, and again, Candace has also not been charged in connection to her disappearance. And, at the end of the day, public suspicion is not the same as evidence. As much as we want it to be, it is not. Now, on to the grandmother, aka Grandis. Um, she was also too with them on with Candace and Summer that day. And so she is often discussed because she was part of the day's timeline. And some of the theories, of course, focus on what she may have seen or known. But law enforcement has not publicly accused her of any type of involvement. There were also rumors that she went missing after the case, but that appears to be strictly misinformation. Again, I'm sure that's probably a redeet spiral that you can go down. I'm sure there's multiple threads on that.
So many.
Um, Danielle said, I can verify. Um, and so she left the area and stayed largely out of the public spotlight. So she wasn't like missing. She was just like, I am just not, I just need some time, whether that be to process, to grieve, to what, anxiety, I don't know. But she just basically took herself like away from everything. Now, but the timeline for her was so like June 25th of 21. So 10 days after Summer vanished, the grandmother and Summer's mother had released public statements basically pleading for information. Okay. And so, but then March, 1st through the 2nd of 2022. Okay. So we're in next year. The Hawkins County Sheriff said that the Wells family had, stopped cooperating, right, with law enforcement. Um, and the grandmother, hey, that's when she gave her first on camera interview to News Channel 11. And she basically said, that's not true. She basically refuted all of those claims of non cooperation and stated, hey, y'all have my phone number and it's on file with the TBI.
She's so confident in it.
But, and see, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say this, and I understand that it's a platform and a lot of people look at it in, peace and love. When you start going on Dr. Phil,
What?
no, with peace and love, ain't nothing wrong with it, but at the same time, maybe we should not. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so March 2022, okay, so prior to that, the grandmother had also appeared along with Summer's parents on the Dr. Phil show. and they were there discussing. Now that is a whole nother can of worms. I encourage you all to look it up and let the video just watch the video. Okay, that's what I encourage. And you gather from that video, your findings, and you go from there. Okay, so we've done the dad, the mother. Now we've got the granny out of the way. Now we're on to her brothers. Now again, she had three of them, and they were ages 7 to 13. They were removed from the home July of 2021, but the details of that are very murky, because obviously, like with child welfare cases, especially with minors, those are confidential, which as they should be. But the boys were initially placed into state custody to ensure their safety following the media chaos surrounding, this entire case. And then Don and Candace later wrote that the boys were taken hundreds of miles away, quote unquote, with parental permission to protect them from the chaos. And then they also said in that same breath, essentially, that the DCS cases were dropped and abuse or neglect allegations were, unfounded. But media could not independently confirm those claims because the juvenile records are protected. Now, reports indicate, though, that they did sign over their parental rights over to the state in 2024, and two of the boys
Wow.
have been adopted out of foster care.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So very,
Mm.
very, there's a lot of feelings around that one. I'm like, I don't know if that's good or if that's, if it's a sad thing, or, I mean, it's obviously a sad thing anytime that children are taken from their, parents, but I'm on the fence with it because I'm like, I don't really know because obviously there's not a lot about it. I don't know.
Well, and I agree with you. And also, it is absolutely heartbreaking and so sad. But at the same time, I hope that those children um, can find some kind of peace in knowing that there are other people that are going to provide them with a good life. And I hope that whoever adopted them do that, considering all that they've gone through, because I could not begin to imagine the trauma that just the three children endured, and if they might even know, what happened
Hmm.
or something. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Um, but again, just because the brothers were removed, um, it still does not prove anything or
correct.
anything to that effect. Um, and of course, as we know, that the DCS matters and the criminal investigations, like they're completely separate. Um, so yes, just always, keep that in mind. Um, but then, okay, and I never knew about this until I really started doing like a deep dive into this. But now we're gonna transition from like immediate family, right, to Candace's sister,
Ooh.
and her name is Rose Marie Bly, and so that's Summer's aunt. And and this is what okay, she disappeared in Wisconsin in 2009. And so I'm going to kind of go over some stuff about her, because also too might as well cover her missing persons case as well. But it is crazy to me that two people are missing out of the same family.
That is absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, yeah. So Rose was last seen, and I hope I'm saying this correctly, in St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin, and that was at 7:30 p.m. on August 21st of 2009. She left her home in the 2300 block of River Road to travel 4 or 5 miles to Cushing, Wisconsin to meet a cousin at a bar. Well, she was driving a white 2001 Pontiac Grand Am with a Wisconsin license plate numbered 535 M as in Mary, A as in Alpha, B as in Bravo. Sometime that night, Bly contacted her husband and said she'd be home by midnight. but she never arrived in Cushing. However, and has never been heard from again. Okay.
So, was Summer alive when the aunt went missing, or was she born after the aunt went missing? Because the aunt went missing in
Um,
2009 and Summer Wells went missing in 2021.
Hold on.
I think I'm wrong now.
Yeah, 2009. I don't know. Hang on a second. Let me hold on. Hold, please. What was, hang on. Excellent question.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I just thought about that.
Okay. Let's see what this says.
Okay.
Mm, let's see. When was she? Hold on.
Because sis, the aunt goes missing in 2009, but
When was
Summer
her birthday? I
Wells,
can't remember.
I can't either. Let me look.
Well, Summer, she was born in on February 4th, 2016.
So the aunt might have never even known
Mm-hmm.
Summer. Okay, okay. I'm there. I'm
Yeah.
back. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you are perfectly fine. That's a good question. And thank goodness I'm sitting in front of a computer because I would have never been able to recall any of that because my brain. Okay. So here we go. Okay. So Rose's car, right, was found in a parking lot near a post office in Grantsburg, Wisconsin, 5 days after her disappearance. I hate that. It gives me goosebumps. The lot is normally used by semi truck drivers to park their tractor trailers. The car was